you all happy with the way with the outcome of the show? Unbelievable. Personally, or just
the realm. Do you know what the realm is? It's the 1,000 blades of Aegon's enemies. A story we agree to tell each other over and over till we forget that it's a lie.
Alright my friends, here we are once again with another Game of Thrones actor describing how they really felt after the final season of the show. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, our old friend Lord Varys is on the long list of actors who did not like how Game of Thrones writers David and Dan ended the series. Now I'm sure most of you already suspected this if you saw how he reacted during the final read of the last season. It's now one of the most infamous videos surrounding the Game of Thrones documentary. I think most of you already knew he was disgusted by how David and Dan had Varys leave the show. It was no secret how he actually felt because it was written all over his face. Now, although we already had a good idea of how he felt in that moment, he finally revealed exactly how he was thinking during his final days on the show and how Varys' ending affected him moving forward. During his brand new interview, Game of Thrones actor Conleth Hill admitted how he was frustrated with the show's rushed final seasons. This new article says, the shadow of Game of Thrones' divisive final season still hangs over the franchise, remaining as a source of incredible disappointment not only for its fans, but also its stars. Game of Thrones actor Conleth Hill, who was the unique Varys on all 8 seasons of the series, said in a new interview with The Times that he believes disagreements with HBO and its showrunners David Benioff and D.B. Weiss led to confusing plot developments in the show's final stretch. Right up until the last 2 series, I had no complaints at all, he told The Times. I just felt frustrated with the last couple of seasons because Varys wasn't the all-knowing character he had been. I think the writers wanted to do one thing to end it, and the studio HBO wanted to do another. I felt that the last season was a bit rushed. I was inconsolable, but now I'm fine about it. Now, Hill's not lying about being inconsolable. After Varys was executed in one of Game of Thrones' final episodes, The Bells, the actor told Entertainment Weekly in an in-depth interview that nothing could console him after learning the fate of his character. He went on to say, "You can't help feeling that you failed in some way, that you haven't lived up to some expectation that you didn't know about. The only thing that consoles you are the people who worked a lot harder than you and who are in the same boat, so that helps. I don't think anybody who hasn't been through it can identify with it. They think, what's all the fuss about? You're all finishing anyway. But you take it personally, you can't help it." Although Hill ultimately thought that Varys' death was noble and in line with the character's ideals, he still had his disappointments. For example, he lamented the lack of closure between Varys and his longtime political rival Littlefinger. As a duo of low-born characters who climbed the ranks of power through skill and cunning, Varys and Littlefinger's combative conversations were highlights of Game of Thrones' early seasons. That was, of course, before the story had them go in different directions. Now, as we all know, Littlefinger ultimately met his fate in Winterfell at the hands of Arya Stark. He goes on to say, "I was very bummed to not have a final scene with him. I was bummed to not have any reaction to him dying, if he was my nemesis. That's been my feeling the last couple seasons, that my character became more peripheral, that they concentrated on others more. That's fine. It's the nature of a multi-character show. It was kind of frustrating. As a whole, it's been overwhelmingly positive and brilliant, but I suppose the last couple seasons weren't my favorite." Now, like I said earlier, I think most of us knew this is how he really felt after watching the Game of Thrones documentary. I know I certainly did. And I remember a lot of fans lashed out at me for thinking any actor did not like how the show ended. I've always said the actors would eventually reveal how they really felt about David and Dan's ending. It was only a matter of time before they started discussing it out in the open. I know he's not the only one who felt this way either. We already know Amelia was devastated by Dany's ending, and it wasn't only because the show was over. She more or less admitted she felt sick by the fact that Daenerys was essentially made into the villain at the very end, and who can blame her for feeling that way? We also know Kit Harington wasn't satisfied either, which is why he wants to make the Jon Snow show. He basically wants to rewrite Jon Snow's ending on his own. Now, I'm sure there will still be some of you who disagree with this, but you will see this happen more often once the actors are no longer afraid to speak their minds. Right now, some of them aren't going to want to say anything out of fear of losing their job, but the truth will always come out eventually. I know I'm still waiting for someone to write a novel about all the dirty little secrets that were happening behind the scenes. That would obviously be an instant bestseller, but that's not going to happen just yet because we're still not that far removed from Game of Thrones' final season. Either way, I do believe it will happen at a later date. Now let me know what you think about the new interview down below. Do you think his feelings are valid? Is he justified? How many of you actually think Varys was mishandled at the end of the show? I want to hear what all of you have to say about this one. As always, I want to thank all of you for watching another video. I hope you all have a great day. I will see you again very soon. Bye.
Have you shot your final scenes yet? And are you happy with how things ended?
Yeah.
She didn't say yes. You didn't say yes.
Best season ever! It's the best. It's the best season ever.
Without telling us anything, because I know you can't, are you all happy with the way with the outcome of the show? Personally, or just
I think with the show.
The fray, it's a little bit Avengers Assemble, and it's a little bit kind of like...
Well, that was totally what season 7 was all about,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Exactly.
Character development?
Lob it all
Story!
in. But it...
I really need to shut up.
You're brave.
Oh my god.
I don't know.
But no, that's what
Joe's
it felt
not going
like.
to be in Star Wars.
No, but this
I couldn't let you go without asking you a little question about Game of Thrones.
Sure.
If you could describe the season finale of Game of Thrones in one word, how would you describe it?
Disappointing.
Disappointing.
No, epic. I don't know.
Epic.
One of those ones.
It's terrifying down there. We're in a crypt. Nobody thought of that. He's bringing all the dead people back to life, and they put the women and children in a crypt with all the dead people. So, rah. Tyrion is smart, but I guess not that smart.
But I hate to tell you that unfortunately Barristan is gone.
Were you gutted about that on a personal level?
I was gutted because, I mean, a number of you I'm sure have read the books, and I've read the books. And I had reason to expect, oh, I've got a journey here. In fact, if I'm honest, I thought, oh, I'm really looking forward to this season. I'm going to have more to do. I'm going to get my teeth into something I'm really looking forward to.
Did you have words? Did you say anything to them?
Well, I did ask and give an argument why I thought Barristan should stay. But at the end of the day, I mean, you know, Dan and David, you know, they'd worked out what they wanted to do.
You know, if you've planned your book that the butler did it, and then you read on the internet, someone has figured out that the butler did it, and you suddenly change in midstream and it was the chambermaid who did it, then you screw up the whole book because you get this foreshadowing early on, and you've got these little clues you planted. Now they're dead ends, and you have to introduce other clues, and you're retconning. It's a mess.
We hope to kind of avoid the expected, and Jon Snow has always been the hero, the one who's been the savior, but it just didn't seem right to us for this moment.
How do you feel about the way that it ends?
There are no better writers in television than Dan Weiss and David Benioff. They ended it brilliantly, better than I could have imagined, and you people are in for it. You people are in for it.